All right. Good morning, folks. Happy Veterans Day for all you working real estate agents today. If you've been in the service or currently are, thank you for your service and happy Veterans Day. Okay. How's everybody doing today? Woo! Let's hear you.
Woo! Good morning, Rick.
Right before I mute you. All right. Well, hey, look you know what time of year this is. This is the time of the year. If you want to make it in November, to remember, you have to be doing what you're supposed to be doing every single day. It's just that simple. And speaking of that, hold on one second here. Okay, Mark, if you could hit *6 on your phone, that would be great. And let me know when you've done that, please.
I just hit it.
There you are, and you're really clear and loud, so perfect. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, we have a special guest today, the owner and CEO of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services of Arizona, California, and Nevada, Mark Stark. How you doing today, Mark?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. Okay. So I've muted everybody but me and you, of course, but maybe towards the end, if we have time, I'll open it up for a few questions. So what I would like to do today is, since I've interviewed you before, by the way, if you want to hear the story, the last time I interviewed Mark, we kind of went over, his history of, being a real estate agent and then, being a manager, then a general manager. So I really would recommend that you listen to that. But today, I wanted to focus on it a little different, okay? Like, Mark, I think, if you were a real estate agent today, let's just jump right into it. If you were a real estate agent today, what would be some of the things that you would be thinking about, like right now? What would be real important to you as a real estate agent?
Well, you know what? I would say some of the aspects of this business never, ever changes. So the first thing that's on my mind, if I was a brand new sales executive or seasoned for that matter, is, all right, each day, Mark, how are you creating new opportunities? How are you interacting with people? That would be my number one, as it was when I started as a brand new agent. It was all about, if you're not in front of new opportunities, the chances of getting business are slim to none. I'm not a guy who likes to sit back and wait for it to come to me. I have the attitude more of, hey, let's get out there and make things happen. So that's what's the first thing would be on my mind.
Absolutely. And you know what? Why don't you, because a lot of them know I was a phone caller. I don't know if a lot of them know that you were actually a prolific door knocker. So tell them a little bit about how you did that, and like you just mentioned, being in front of people, and what was your minimum standard and all that good stuff. I think that'd be really, really valuable for them to hear.
Well, I was, when it came to calling, I used the phone for expireds, which I worked, and for sale by owners. But I really enjoyed being face-to-face with people. So I would prefer getting out there and door knocking. It did a couple things for me. One, you use the phone to get face-to-face. That's what the phone's job is. Well, Mark, if you knock a door and they answer, you're already face-to-face. So it 100% accomplishes that if they answer, number one. The other thing for me is, I believe the conversation changes when you're face-to-face. People react differently than they do many times on the phone. There are certainly ways to get through that utilizing the phone. I did what for sale by owners and expireds, but I was just really comfortable. So I would door knock. My main driver, though, on a day-to-day basis, honestly, was not door knocking, was not FSBOs, was not expireds. What it really was is I needed 2 new opportunities a day, 5 days a week. So be it that came from FSBOs, or it came from expireds, or it came from, past clients, mailing, whatever it came from, I really didn't care. But my job before the day ended was, Mark, you have to create 2 new opportunities. And again, most of those came from via door knocking, expired listings, and then my safety valve was always, if I couldn't get an appointment that day from any other vehicle, I knew I could always get in front of a new for sale by owner and put them in my system.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted them to hear, that if you can't get, like you said, if you can't get a appointment from your prospecting and so forth, you will do a physical preview, which for you counted as a face-to-face appointment because they're people selling, right?
People selling, and I'd never met them before. So it wasn't someone I've already met or had already previously put in my system. This was a new face and a new conversation about real estate with the consumer. So that was, that was always a worthwhile meeting for me.
Yeah. And, I agree with you 100%. Face-to-face is the number one quality of contact. The second would be voice-to-voice, meaning over the phone. And when you get good over the phone using the pattern that I talk about in Success Series, you can keep people on the phone more. But tell them a little bit, I like the way that you used to keep an expired on the phone. You'd call an expired, they'd give you a little pushback, and you would get into a certain conversation. Tell them a little bit about that. I think that'd be helpful as well.
Okay. Well, one of the things I noticed with expired listings is everyone was calling and would say something like, I noticed that your property's come off the market. Are you still interested in selling? Something to that effect. And everyone was doing that. And I just went, you know what, that's not inspiring to me. And that certainly wasn't really working, in my opinion, very effectively. Not that anything can work. If you do it consistently, I guess even sometimes the wrong things can become right for you. But for me, here's what I did. My goal was, Mark, you got to get them talking about themselves and their home. And I knew one thing about them before ever even talking to them is they were interested, 99% they were interested in selling their house. Why? Well, they were an expired listing. Okay, so I knew that they were interested in selling. So the first thing I would do is, hi, this is Mark Stark with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Can you do me a favor and tell me how your backyard is set up? And what that did is it threw them kind of off base. And it would be like, well, why do you want to know how my backyard is set up? I go, well, aren't you selling your home? Well, yeah. Okay, tell me about it. Eventually, through the conversation, many times it'll come out that they were, my property came off the market. Okay, that's why it wouldn't come out of the search, okay, of the MLS. All right, well, let me say this. I'll be in your area between 2 and 4. I'd like to stop by and preview. And we'll go from there. I didn't even go in, are you still interested in selling? I went for it. Because one rule of thumb I had is, because I was a door knocker, this is the other thing it did for me. Because I was a door knocker, I never had a wasted appointment. Because if I would go out to the house, and let's say they just no-showed me, I don't care. I have houses to door knock. So it was never a wasted drive. It's like when someone tells me they had a bad open house. It's impossible because there's always something you can do productively if you want to, instead of blaming it on the open house. So when something happened, I would just knock the area, or they would have the appointment because they were interested, and they would ask me, do you have a buyer? I don't know yet. I haven't seen the house. I'll see you between 2 and 4, whatever the case may be. So that's how I handled it, and it was very effective for me. If they told me about the backyard, I would go, can you tell me about the floor plan? Can you tell me about the master? Okay, would you say that there's a lot of partitions, or is it a more open floor plan? And it would be questions about the house on a consistent basis, and then I'd shoot for the appointment at when I felt it was the right time.
Perfect. Yeah, open-ended questions, and like you said, get them talking about themselves and their house, and what you know is that they're an expired listing, so they wanted to sell. So perfect. Love it. Good. I love it. It's a little different way of doing it, but as long as you're, like you say, and you can hear one of the things I teach them in Success Series is you can hear the assumption in your voice. Like, it's very matter of fact, end your sentences on a downswing, ask great questions, and people will respond to you, right? But if you make it weird, they don't respond.
No, it's so true. It is so true. And you get the more, what I find, the more curious you can be, really. I mean, I haven't seen this house, so tell me about the master. Instead of falling into the trap where it's part of my script, which it was, but separate from that, it was just stay curious. Tell me about your master and listen. And it's amazing how that helps you with the voice inflections and your attitude, because you're really curious. You're putting your mind in a curious setup. So when you ask these questions, to your point, Rick, it's coming out much more realistic and flows much better.
Absolutely. And it also sounds to me like And just like by the way, folks, I got success series going on this week at the Southwest office every day, Monday through Friday, 1 to 4. So if you're around, and one of the things I talk about is how to make an open house, that's Wednesday, okay, an event. And it sounds to me like you also made it an event, right? Just like when you said, there's no such thing as a bad open house because it's an excuse to prospect. But tell us a little about that, how you your open houses and how you maximize the return on your time.
Okay. Well, when I was newer, I would do, and I'm, again, full disclosure, do all my open houses. After, probably it was about 7 months in the business because I was really hardcore on get my 2 appointments a day. I would have someone else work the open house, yet I would canvas. So I would canvas for the open house. Anyone who came to the open house, that person could have those leads because they were covering the open house for me, but I would canvas the whole neighborhood on inviting them to the open house. And so that was over time because, again, my whole focus was how do I meet 2 new opportunities each day, 5 days a week. One other thing on the expired, just to jump back on, I want to keep in mind is when I would ask that question, when they would answer, I would not take a breath and I would get to the first question about their house, without stopping. So Mark Stark, Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, can you tell me a little bit about how your backyard is set up? I would go right to that. So really important, get that so they hear that first question before anything else is stated. So sorry to jump back.
Them a little bit. Yeah, no, I agree with you. That's the open-ended question part. You're getting them to think rather than say no to you. You're getting them to think about, my backyard is, and they get right into it most of the time.
True.
Absolutely.
So back on the open house.
No, go ahead.
No. So back on those. So that's what I would do. It was an excuse. I would schedule so many open houses because it was an excuse for me and a very easy way to interact with the public around the neighborhood. Hey, we're having an open house on Saturday and Sunday from, noon to 4. Feel free to invite friends, and we would like you to stop by. A lot of times, a lot of neighbors want to check out other homes around them, and you're more than welcome to stop by. And then the conversation would go from there.
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's really, I agree with you 100%. There's really no bad open house. If you're out there, I call an open house an excuse to prospect that turns into a free retail store to collect leads if you do it right. If you put up signs 15 minutes before and then you're losing the opportunity of the actual prospecting part of the open house. So 100% agree. Okay, so now I'm going to jump right into something that I didn't even mention to you, and that is, I've been traveling a lot lately, especially the last 2 weeks. I've been pretty much everywhere in Arizona, all over California. And as the CEO, I'm going to tell you, here's the question I've been asked, and I figured I'll just throw it out to you the last couple of weeks. Here's, with the now the acquisition of Tarbell's all smoothed out, those agents are rocking and rolling. And here's the question I've heard a few times, Mark, and I haven't even told you this yet. Hey, Rick, now that we are, bigger in California and good size in Arizona, same in Nevada, what is Mark's focus for the company? What a great question, right? So I figured I'll just throw that right out to you. What is your focus for this wonderful 3,600 agent company that we have now?
Well, okay, a couple things. One, we make decisions in the company, and this is, of course, you included, Rick, by first listening first. And that means not only listening to our sales executives, but listening to see what the consumers are doing. So the first thing, what we have seen is that what we're focusing in on as a company works. And that is not trying to convince the consumer to do anything different, but actually listening to the consumer and saying, okay, what are they doing? What do they demand? What do they want? And then, Mark, how does you and your company and your sales executives and your team facilitate their needs? So we are going to stay the course very sensitively on that because it continues to work, and we're not having to sell anything. We just got to listen first. So that's number one. Number two, everyone will hear about this at the general sales event, that now with the change of technology, artificial intelligence, we're able to do things more authentically and more efficiently and effectively than we ever could before. And so we're going through a whole upgrade now and this is all driven by that same thing I just went over of what the consumer demands, okay, and what our agents need to service the consumer properly. And so we're going through a whole upgrade of all of our systems and technology, which everyone will get an update on at each of the general sales events. Just an overview. But it's a very exciting time. Lastly, but certainly as important is we're still on a growth mode. You know, I've noticed in the industry right now, there's an immense amount of fear. In interacting with different brokers, so many brokers are running scared. And what I see the reason is, after having a conversation with them, is they don't know who they are. And they don't know who they're not. And so they don't know which way to turn. One thing I want all the listeners to know is we know who we are, we know where we're going, and we know who we're not. You know, there's people, our setup is not for everybody. And so the bottom line is you have to have clarity on who you are. And if you don't, how do you know which way to go? It's like, you know, me telling you, meet me over there, and I don't give you an address, and you're just driving around aimlessly trying to find me. It would be ridiculous. You got to have direction. And so with that fear, we continually to evaluate other acquisitions, other growth. We're growing organically, as you know, as well. And so we're staying the course. We see great opportunity, okay, long term, specifically because of the nerves that a lot of other brokers and sales executives have. And we want to be the beneficiary of that.
Yeah, you know, that's such a great point. I would say as a you know, as Berkshire Hathaway, like you just said, we're consumer centric. As CEO of the company, you're extremely agent centric because, and I don't know if everybody knows this, you were an agent for a long time. You think like an agent. All the meetings I'm in about everything you just talked about is all designed on making it better. You know, and I was just thinking, could you imagine? I know you've been licensed just as long as me, 1985, both of us. Could you imagine if we had some of the tools that they have today available to us back then? Wouldn't that be something?
Wow. It would, let me tell you, it would have changed the world back then for us. But you know what? Everything happens in its own time.
Right.
And but now, you know, you bring up a good point when you talk about agent-centric. I've always believed the best thing we can do for our sales executives is make sure we're helping them support the consumer properly. Because if they already have so many quality relationships, okay, they're building new relationships at all times as well. But, you know, if you can continue upping your game, then the consumer continues to say, you know what, I already trust them. I already am comfortable with the relationship. And they're all that. Man, they continue to grow and innovate and succeed at higher levels, which, guess what, guys? That's the pressure on all of us. You, the company, everybody.
Yeah, it's really something, too, that you mentioned fear, because I watched, you know, Tina's favorite show is 60 Minutes. And so I watched 60 Minutes with her. It's the only somewhat news thing that I watch. And they had I can't even think of his name, the president CEO of Chase Bank, you know, J.P. Morgan Chase, the largest bank on the planet. And he said basically the same thing you just said. If you hear people talking about recession, that's fear. So she point blanks him and says, so what do you think of this economy? He goes, I think we have 100 good years ahead of us. Just like that. And I'm like,
okay, that's Jamie. Well, that's Jamie Dimon.
Yeah, he's amazing. Did you see that interview last night?
I didn't see the interview, but I know him, and I heard some excerpts from it on CNBC. No, he's a stud. He is really great. I mean, and so I hadn't seen that. I'll have to look it up and watch it.
He gave a lot of good reasons why people are looking for, you know, the recession talk right now. But if you actually analyze the numbers, and like you, he's a super numbers guy, he said it's not there. You know, I mean, you can't predict 100 years. He was kind of joking, but he said for the next few years, I mean, there's just nothing in the. So we all have good, it's a great time to be selling real estate. We got a tremendous name brand and so forth. So, okay, Mark, bringing it full circle here. We have a few minutes left. Let's put your agent hat back on for a second. If you could give them some pieces of advice with what you see coming down the pike, what would be some of the words of wisdom you would tell them, either the new person or the person who is trying to go from one level to another? Give them a couple nuggets of what you would be focusing on as a real estate agent in today's world.
Well, many times, the new agent has sometimes positioned to have a better opportunity. And here's why. It's easy when we've been in the business a while to stop growing and to stop being willing to change. So we get caught, and where a new sales executive comes in and is open to everything because they need to be. But that in a behind the scenes way gives them an opportunity because they can leapfrog over their competitors because of that. So my nugget here is, look, the world's going to continue changing around us. You should have a base foundation tied into who you are and what you need to accomplish on a day-by-day basis. Not a year, not a quarter. Trust me, have a lot of great days. Your quarters, your months, your years will take care of themselves. You got to take it down to being productive each day. So once you have that foundation, you've got to look at your business and say, all right, what are my strengths? And you want to focus in on your strengths. And then how do I backfill my weaknesses? It doesn't have to be you doing it, but you've got to backfill those weaknesses, because weaknesses may not be something that you need to do, but they have to be done. Right. And so, in technology, keep this in mind. In my belief, okay, technology will never be an or in our industry, in many industries, in my opinion. It'll be an and. So, when someone says, well, this technology is gonna get rid of the agent. Okay, don't get caught up in that, thought process. What you do need to understand, though, because there is a point there, and that is, as an agent, you got to go, the reason I know that's never going to happen is because I'm going to utilize that technology, and I'm going to utilize it better and more effectively than anyone does, because this technology isn't isolating anyone out. And so it gives you that opportunity of being and your foundation and more instead of either or. And clearly, I think the consumer continues to tell us they're an and mindset. Give us it all. And by the way, hold your seat, because we're going to want more in the future. And it just continues down that way. So we've got to be open to learning, open to growing, starting to build on that already base foundation that has to be there. And you do that, 2020 will be your most successful year ever.
Ever. The old, my new saying, got to have 2020. That's vision for 2020 if you want to make more money. All right. So, and I just to give Mark a shout out here also, one of the things we've been talking about is all of us need to get a little uncomfortable. Like for me, social media was totally uncomfortable. Now, 3-4 years into it, I feel way more comfortable. Although right before this call, I did a video, okay, and I'm still not comfortable turning that selfie camera around and doing a video and then sending it out for my schedule for the week. Just like Mark, great job. Was that Friday? I think you did that or Thursday night, that video in the airport about your event. Since we're talking about the event, or I just brought it up, give us a little nugget. You met with some top producers last week, didn't you? And what did you learn last week?
Yeah, you know what? It was really great content, and everyone really openly shared. And we're going to do more and more of these types of things at all levels of the organization, because when you hear it from another sales executive that does the business, you tend to really take it in. Instead of hearing what you should do, you hear, here's what they are doing. And, we talked luxury real estate, we talked systems, processes, building an asset in your business. It was really great. And you know what I love? Everyone openly shared what they were doing, wasn't worried about, just came from abundance and not scarcity. It was great. I think everyone got a lot out of it.
Yeah, I've been hearing great things about it too, as well. People in my coaching, and then people just going to it, the social media posts that go along with it too. Okay, awesome. Well, this has been great stuff, Mark. I really appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any, why don't we just say this, okay? So we'll do this again in exactly a week. Mark, thank you very much. Once again, don't forget, we have success series going on every day this week, okay, at the Southwest branch, 1 to 4. I also have office visits. I'll be at Sahara this morning. I'll be at St. Rose tomorrow, Wednesday, Summerlin, and I will be at Southwest on Friday morning, okay? Those are all 9 to 11 visits, by the way. Mark, thank you very much for your wisdom. Really appreciate it. I'll talk to you soon, guys. Thank you very much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye now.